The morning of our anniversary begins exactly the way it always does, which feels comforting in a quiet, almost automatic way. I wake before him and move through the kitchen on muscle memory alone, grinding coffee beans, setting out 2 mugs, turning on the radio low enough that it doesn't demand attention. When he joins me, still half asleep, he kisses my temple like he's done 100 times before. It's brief, absent-minded, but familiar. Familiar feels safe. We talk about nothing important. The weather. A meeting he has later. Whether we should try that new restaurant tonight or stick with our usual place. The conversation flows easily, polished smooth by repetition. I tell myself this is what long marriages look like: less spark, more rhythm. Less surprise, more reliability. Anniversaries used to feel electric. Now they feel like checkpoints. Proof that we're still here. Proof that nothing has gone terribly wrong. I don't need fireworks anymore, I tell myself. I just need consistency. Showing up counts for something, doesn't it? There are small things I notice but refuse to hold too closely. His phone never leaves his hand, even when he's just moving from room to room. When it lights up, he angles the screen away without seeming to think about it. His smile lingers a second too long, like he's performing an expression rather than feeling it. None of it is dramatic enough to accuse. None of it feels solid enough to confront. So I do what I've always done, I explain it away. Stress at work. Distraction. Normal distance. I remind myself that trust is a choice, not a feeling, and I choose it again and again because the alternative feels dangerous. As I get dressed later, thinking about dinner and the gift I bought him weeks ago, a quiet satisfaction settles in. We are steady. We are predictable. And in that predictability, I believe we are safe, never realizing that the same consistency I cling to is also the perfect place for betrayal to hide. When I think about us in the beginning, it feels like remembering a different lifetime. We were ambitious then, restless in a way that felt hopeful instead of exhausting. We talked about everything: where we wanted to live, who we wanted to become, how our lives would intertwine so completely that there would never be room for doubt. Love felt loud back then. Urgent. Certain. Somewhere along the way, the urgency softened. The conversations shortened. Dreams were quietly replaced with schedules and responsibilities. I tell myself that's normal, that intimacy doesn't disappear, it just changes shape. Still, the distance between us now feels heavier than it should. We exist beside each other more than with each other, sharing space without really sharing ourselves. There were moments I noticed but chose not to name. Nights when he came home later than usual, already tired, already gone. Weekends when he was physically present but emotionally unreachable, his mind always somewhere else. When I asked if something was wrong, he said no so easily that I learned to stop asking. I convinced myself that love meant patience, that pressing too hard would only push him further away. Sometimes I wonder if I should have fought more. If I should have demanded attention instead of adapting to its absence. I replay conversations in my head, searching for the exact moment things shifted, as if pinpointing it might somehow undo it. Maybe love naturally fades, I think. Maybe this is just what happens when two people stay too long. What I don't admit, at least not fully, is how much effort it takes to keep us intact. How often I smooth over silence, initiate connection, protect the image of us when it feels fragile. I carry the weight of the marriage carefully, quietly, as if it might break if I set it down. That's why this anniversary matters. If I try harder, love harder, maybe I can close the distance. Maybe effort can still save what memory alone has been holding together. It happens without ceremony, without intention. His phone is on the counter, vibrating softly beside his keys while he's in the shower, and I pick it up for the most harmless reason. To check the time for our reservation, to silence the buzz so it doesn't keep echoing through the kitchen. I've done it before. There's never been a reason not to. The screen lights up, and for half a second, everything in me freezes. The notification isn't explicit, not at first glance, but it's intimate in a way I can't explain away. A name I don't recognize. A message that doesn't belong to casual conversation. A heart, placed too deliberately to be accidental. It flashes and disappears, but the damage is already done. My body reacts before my mind can catch up. My heart begins to race, pounding so loudly I'm sure I can hear it in my ears. My fingers tremble around the phone, and I realize I'm holding my breath without meaning to. The kitchen feels suddenly smaller, the air heavier, like the room itself knows something I don't want to learn. I tell myself there's a rational explanation. A coworker. A joke taken out of context. Anything but what my instincts are already whispering. Trust isn't supposed to feel like this, sharp and panicked and sickening. But I remind myself that suspicion is easy and faith is harder. Still, I don't put the phone down. I argue with myself in quick, desperate thoughts. Privacy matters. Marriage means respect. Looking would cross a line I can't uncross. But another voice pushes back, quieter and more dangerous, reminding me that ignoring the truth doesn't make it disappear. My thumb hovers over the screen, hesitating for one final moment. I unlock the phone before I can change my mind, knowing, even as it opens, that once you look, you can never unknow what you're about to find. I don't read everything. I don't need to. My eyes skim, darting from one line to another, taking in fragments that stitch themselves together faster than I can stop them. I tell myself I'm just looking for context, for something that will prove I misunderstood. But the truth doesn't arrive all at once, it comes in pieces, sharp and undeniable. The messages aren't graphic. They don't have to be. They're intimate in quieter ways, full of familiarity and ease. Pet names. Private jokes. A rhythm of conversation that suggests hours spent talking, confiding, sharing. I recognize the language immediately because it once belonged to me. These are phrases he used when we were new, when we were close, when I believed that kind of tenderness was reserved for us alone. I scroll further, my hands steady now in a way that scares me. Photos appear, nothing explicit, but personal enough to erase doubt. Smiles meant for him. Moments captured and sent without hesitation. I notice the timestamps before I can stop myself. Weeks. Months. Longer than I want to calculate. The affair isn't impulsive, it's maintained, woven carefully into the spaces of our life. Then I see it, the message that finally stills everything inside me. A casual reference to tonight. To our anniversary. Plans made around it, not in spite of it. His coordinated betrayal with the same precision he uses to schedule meetings and reminders. The date that's supposed to belong to us is just another inconvenience to work around. I wait for anger to arrive. For tears, for shouting, for something loud enough to match the enormity of what I found. Instead, there's only a strange, hollow calm. My chest feels empty, like something vital has quietly slipped out without permission. The love, the marriage, the version of my life I thought I was living, it all feels suddenly theoretical. I lock the phone and set it down exactly where I found it. I sit there in silence, the proof heavy in my hands, staring at nothing, trying to understand how I can be holding evidence of a life that no longer looks like mine. I don't fall apart the way I always imagined I would. There's no screaming, no sobbing on the floor. Instead, I feel myself detach, as if my mind has stepped a few feet back to watch what my body is doing. I notice the way I'm sitting, the way my hands rest in my lap, the way my breathing evens out despite the chaos pressing in on my chest. It's unsettling how calm I appear. What hurts most isn't just the loss, it's the humiliation. The knowledge that while I was protecting our marriage, believing in us, he was living a parallel life I knew nothing about. I picture myself smiling beside him at dinners, defending him in conversations, trusting him without hesitation. The realization that I was faithful not just in action but in belief feels suddenly foolish. I imagine confronting him. I rehearse the words in my head, sharp and precise. I imagine his face when I tell him I know. The apologies. The explanations. But even in the fantasy, there's no relief. No satisfaction. Just exhaustion. I don't want his justifications or his remorse. I don't want to hear how complicated it all became. Every memory starts to shift under scrutiny. Late nights. Missed calls. His distant moods. What I once labeled as stress or fatigue now rearranges itself into something uglier. The affair doesn't just exist in the present, it reaches backward, rewriting our past, turning moments I cherished into evidence I overlooked. The pain settles quietly, pressing inward instead of spilling out. It's isolating, contained, and entirely my own. I take a slow breath and straighten my shoulders, smoothing my face into something neutral. Not because I'm okay, and not because I've healed, but because the evening isn't over yet, and I need to survive what comes next. He comes out of the bedroom smiling, towel slung over his shoulder, completely unaware that anything has shifted. He looks relaxed, lighter than he has in weeks, and the normalcy of it almost knocks the air out of me. He leans in to kiss my cheek, lingering just long enough to feel affectionate, and asks if I'm ready for dinner like it's any other night. He talks easily, filling the space with plans and small talk. He mentions the restaurant again, jokes about ordering too much food, talks about something we should do next month, a trip, maybe, or fixing something around the house. He speaks in futures, in assumptions that we are still moving forward together. Each word lands wrong, hollow, and practiced, like lines he's repeated elsewhere. I watch him carefully, noticing details I've never questioned before. The confidence in his voice. The comfort of his movements. The way he slips so seamlessly into the role of husband. It's unsettling how convincing he is. I wonder how long he's been this good at pretending, and whether he's aware he's doing it at all. When he hands me my anniversary gift, there's a softness in his expression that almost pulls me under. It's thoughtful, something I mentioned wanting months ago, something specific enough to suggest he listens. For a brief, dangerous moment, doubt creeps in. I wonder if I imagined everything. If I overreacted. If love can coexist with mistakes. I thank him, my voice steady, my hands calm as I open it. He watches me closely, waiting for my reaction, clearly pleased with himself. And then I notice it, the smallest thing, easy to miss. A faint unfamiliar scent clinging to him. Or the timing of the purchase that doesn't align with his story. Something subtle, but undeniable. The doubt disappears instantly. In its place comes clarity. He can be kind and dishonest. Attentive and unfaithful. Loving and capable of betrayal. Those things don't cancel each other out. They exist together, and realizing that is what finally makes the truth impossible to escape. I think about saying something. About letting the truth spill out between us and watching it change his face. But the more I imagine it, the more hollow it feels. Words suddenly seem too small for what I know, too fragile to carry the weight of betrayal. Any explanation I give would be for his benefit, not mine, and I'm no longer willing to spend my energy making this easier for him. Confrontation would give him a chance to explain, to justify, to reshape the story in ways that soften his responsibility. It would center his guilt, his remorse, his desire to be forgiven. I don't want to witness his apologies or measure their sincerity. I don't want to argue over timelines or intentions. None of that would give me back what's already been taken. So I choose silence. It feels strange at first, almost unnatural, like holding my breath on purpose. But there's power in it. Silence keeps the truth intact, untouched by excuses. It belongs entirely to me. In saying nothing, I'm not avoiding the pain, I'm refusing to negotiate with it. While he's distracted, moving around the apartment with easy confidence, I begin to pack. Only the essentials. Clothes, documents, the things that feel undeniably mine. I move slowly, deliberately, giving myself time to adjust to the reality of what I'm doing. Each item in my bag makes the decision more real, more permanent. Fear hums beneath the surface. The unknown stretches out in front of me, wide and unforgiving. But beneath the fear is clarity, sharp and steady. When I zip the bag closed and walk toward the door, my hands don't shake. I pause there for a moment, breathing evenly, grounded in the certainty that leaving, quietly, without a word, is the first choice I've made entirely for myself. The door closes behind me with a sound that feels louder than it should, solid and irreversible. I stand there for a second longer than necessary, my hand still on the handle, letting the weight of that final motion settle in my chest. This is the moment everything changes, not with a confrontation or a confession, but with a simple act of leaving. As I step outside, memories rise uninvited. Late nights laughing on this same doorstep. Coming home together, arms full of groceries. Plans spilling out faster than we could follow them. I let the memories pass through me without turning back. Looking back would only reopen something I've already closed. I don't leave a note. I don't send a message. There's no explanation waiting for him to find. Silence feels more honest than any words I could write, cleaner than anything I could say in anger or grief. Days pass. I don't count them, but I feel them. My phone lights up again and again. Missed calls, messages I don't open. I can imagine his confusion easily, the slow realization that something is truly wrong. I picture the panic setting in, the questions he can't answer on his own. For the first time, his uncertainty isn't mine to manage. Without the marriage framing every decision, I begin to notice myself again. What I want. What I feel. The quiet relief that lives alongside the pain. The absence he feels becomes the space I need to breathe. I know the silence will hurt him. That isn't the point. Silence isn't revenge, and it isn't weakness. It's clarity. It's the final boundary I set, the last truth I give him, one he can't interrupt, reinterpret, or undo.